So, a thought crossed my mind. I was watching the news and the fire department people was talking about. I got that radio on, so if you hear that music, then ignore it. I really tried to search for the oldie station, but I can't find it. That's really what I want to listen to, but it's on for background noise. Anyhow, a matter of fact, I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna turn it down. So, I was watching the news earlier, and there was a whole bunch of firefighters that became firefighters because their fathers passed away in the 9/11 rescue. They died while they were rescuing people from 9/11, removing rubble and stuff like that, and all those things. And I was talking to my friend recently about how I remember when I was younger living here in Columbus, Georgia, and having one of the most popular military bases here in Fort Benning. When I was younger growing up, maybe like 8, 9, 10 years old, years before 9/11 even happened, there would be these protesters, a whole bunch of Caucasian, hippie looking people used to come, and I mean, it would be at least 500 people there because I lived like right by the base before you got up to the military base. I lived in apartment complexes like right before the military base. And every year around this time in September, they would be protesting, sleeping in our yards. And we used to like to see them coming because, as a kid, I used to sell them lemonade. We used to sell them food plates. They used to pay us to sleep in our yard, all types of stuff. And they used to chant this chant over and over and over again. And they used to be out there and they'll start getting started and they'll make speeches and stuff like that. And everybody will be cheering. And every time around September, around this time, we would have like a little show right there in our front yard of this big, big protest. And I mean, it had to be hundreds of people standing out there in the street here in our small town. Big old protest, biggest protest we ever seen. So they would be marching and chanting, "We are marching for the SOA, the SOA, the SOA." And I would always, me being the nosy kid, being inquisitive, sometimes they used to rent out some of our apartments, and that's where they'll be having their little meetings at to figure out what they was going to protest about and, what they was going to say. And, they'll pay the rent office people to, just use some of their apartments to sleep in and, meet in and have their little things. So, forums. So sometimes us kids used to go in there and just sit and try to figure out what the hell these people were protesting about and what all of this was even about. So, funny thing is that I want to say maybe like a year before we actually had, I actually got really cool with some of them, and one of the guys actually bought me a bat and mitten toy, and there was a toy bat and mitten with the little net and the tennis thing or whatever, and he was just a very nice white man, very, very kind. So he explained to me that they were marching to close the School of Americas, but they would name it the School of Assassins. And I believe in these schools is where they would train these Middle Eastern people to like fly these planes and stuff like that. And they were teaching them to fly and teaching them to, I guess, teaching them military tactics or whatever. So, I mean, being 8 or 9 years old back then at the time, and I was just like, I had no clue what they were talking about. I'm not even gonna lie. I was just kind of like, okay. if you say so. You know, we didn't talk about politics around my house, so I was just like, it's a whole bunch of white people outside my house making up a whole bunch of noise, protesting about something that ain't even that important. But, 9/11 came up. And I remember I asked my brother, I'm like, well, what's going on? What's happening? And God rest his soul. Um, then he was just like, I'm like, why do we have to go home from school? And he kind of said to me, very frustrated, we had turned on the news and was like, see, that's why we had to go home from school. And I just remember that it was people jumping from the Twin Towers, falling out the sky. Like, it was apocalyptic. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that was like the first time I actually seen them show something so graphic on the evening news. And and as I got older, I started putting two and two together, and I was like, oh, that's what those people were marching about. That's what they were marching about. That's what they were trying to avoid, because these Middle Easterners or terrorists, Arabics, or whatever they were, hijacked the plane and flew it into the Twin Towers and killed everybody on the plane, including themselves, and killed everybody in those buildings. Not many people survived, if anybody survived. I don't know how many survivors there were exactly, but I think it was only maybe like one person that survived being in those buildings. And it just made me think. That's all. That just a whole lot of stuff and events had happened in my life that just made me think, that was interesting. But soon after that, I remember Aaliyah passed away. And I remember my brother being very sad, and I remember that she shared the same birthday as my brother. And I remember he was very sad. We was all sad. The whole world was sad. It was like another death, and it was like involving the plane, which was kind of eerie. And she died. I think she died in September-ish. Yeah, she died in like September too. And not too long after that, the next year, I believe my brother passed away. The same brother who was telling me to look at the news. And the same brother that shared the same birthday as Aaliyah. So those are just things that I observed about my life as I look back on my life and see all the interesting things that happen. But basically, I'm ready to leave from here. This apartment. I really feel like I'm about to leave Georgia altogether. I'm still pondering on it, but I know for a fact I don't want to be in this apartment no more. It's just people are actually moving out. My neighbors are moving out left and right, so I feel like that's definitely my cue to leave. The fact that I don't necessarily want to be here anymore because of all the perping. It's just starting to get overwhelming here. And I'm not doing so hot here with work and money and just trying to uphold an apartment where people are constantly harassing you. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it, I was trying to save face, not necessarily save face, but I was trying to move like somebody who wasn't targeted, but I'm targeted, and I gotta do what I have to do. I gotta do whatever makes sense for me in that moment, and I gotta get up out of here. I gotta leave here. So I'm gonna try to get out of here between soon, very, very soon, and I'm not gonna say exactly when because I know most of the people that watch my videos are perps. Most of the people on YouTube are perps. And it's sad because they make good videos. I'm not saying they're not telling a lot of truth in their videos. I'm the kind of person that says don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it's not very many genuine, real targeted individuals out there. And if they were targeted individuals at some point, they went over to the dark side, you know? So, just updating y'all on what's going on. And just the thought that I had, things that are on my mind. And I'll just update y'all again soon. Until next time, pray for me. Don't pray on me. And I'm going to continue to keep all the genuine TIs in prayer. And just stay in, and try to stay in good spirits and stay hopeful. Thank you.